All right, and speaking of enjoyment, I got Chris LUKASEVICH in here from Jim Thorpe, and the man, the myth, the legend. And Chris is one of those really good people who wants to do some things for his community. And, Chris, good to have you along with me here today. Thanks so much. You've been a busy, busy guy, haven't you?
Yeah, extremely busy, Bob. And first and foremost, I want to thank you for getting us back up here to be on the Morning Lifeline with you. It's always a pleasure to have a conversation with you, kind of talk about some of the topics that matter most to the residents of Carbon County and many of your listeners, even those beyond the borders of Carbon County. So, yeah, it's been really busy. You know, the petition period has ended. There's 5 of us on the Republican ticket running for Carbon County Commissioner. 2 of them are career politicians seeking re-election. You know, one's been a commissioner for for 20 years now, right? The other's been a politician for over 19 years. So again, really trying to shake things up, change the environment, and make positive change for the residents of Carbon County. We really want to move away from the status quo, because the status quo isn't getting this county to the next level. And that's the change that I'm going to work to make for the residents of Carbon County, Bob.
Chris, how many Democratic candidates are there?
Bob, right now, if I recall, there's either three right now.
Right.
No question, though. I'm really focused on the Republican candidates.
Yeah.
I would call them, generally speaking, rhinos, Republicans in name only. There's nothing that demonstrates to me that they believe in smaller budgets, smaller government, less regulation, smaller deficit. The facts actually show just the opposite.
Right.
So I'm surprised we've had these current commissioners for so long, since they don't seem to adhere or truly believe in the conservative values that are associated with the Republican Party.
Right.
So I think a change is made, that we get back to the foundations of the party.
And your opponents, you know, in this Republican primary are allowed to contact me and come on the program as well, if they so choose.
Yeah, and that's great, Bob. And I know you're always open to having guests.
Everybody on, equal time and everything.
Yeah, to have an informed audience and informed voters.
Right.
And that's why I think I'm very surprised that Blue Ridge Cable, the Times News, has not stepped up. Even the 912 Project, which hosted a debate years back, hasn't come forward and say, well, let's have the primary candidates debate. Let's have a Republican debate. Let's have a Democratic candidate debate. Let's ensure that we're helping the public be better informed on the issues that matter most to them. So I am disappointed in the media, both print, radio, and television in Carbon County, for not taking their responsibility to keep citizens informed seriously.
Well, you know, when I used to work up at Stroudsburg, the Pocono Record always did a great job. You know, they would do these capsules of candidates so people would have a better feel and understanding, because, you know, some people don't have the time to research and do everything else.
Right.
So they would give you kind of like an overview of the candidates, their platforms, things like that. And it was really well received. And then the League of Women Voters would also get behind that. And then they would sponsor debates over at East Stroudsburg University among the candidates from Monroe County Commissioner or whatever offices were up for grabs. And, you know, state senator, state representative really did a nice job. And they always did a really, really nice job around election time with that.
Well, no, that's a great point. You know, there are civic organizations, while they like to stay apolitical, they can still stay apolitical and host events like the League of Women's Voters, Rotaries, Lions, women's clubs, things of that nature.
And you open it up to all parties. Yeah?
That's right.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And, you know, you spoke about, you know, the newspaper for providing opportunity for candidates to get their views out there. Because that, again, the Times News has been welcoming to us for candidate announcements. And that's been very good opportunity to at least get the general information out. You know, because I like to talk about the return on investment. You know, the Carbon County taxpayer and the American taxpayer, you know, for 34 years while I was in the U.S. Army, your taxpaying enabled my training, my education. You sent me around the world to really practice the leadership and management experience that is so applicable to being a Carbon County Commissioner. The diversity of tasks that I had to manage, from personnel issues, financial issues, contractual issues, all of those skills and experiences apply almost perfectly to managing a government. And they're the type of candidates that we want, right? We want elected officials who have really, they have to be a jack of all trades, and they have to have depth of knowledge in those areas that are so critical to ensuring an effective and efficient operating government. Something that I would challenge to say that we really don't have right now at this time in Carbon County.
Yeah, you want people who are qualified. I'm not going to mention the county, and I'm not going to mention names, but there was a position up for grabs, a treasurer, a county treasurer position, where the treasurer had no accounting or any numbers experience whatsoever.
Right.
And they basically were voted in year after year after year because they were popular. But it had nothing to do with experience. Listen, somebody's running my county or somebody's handling my books, or I want them to have accounting or at least, some experience working with debits and credits and numbers and spreadsheets and all that kind of stuff,
Right.
But when you have somebody in there in a position, just a glad-handing position because they're popular, it's not good.
Right.
It's not good business.
No, and that's a great point. So, it's a combination of training and education and practical experience. And I'll be honest, when I was a young lieutenant, I had 20 guys working for me. I wasn't at the level to manage a county government. Just like if you have, let's say, a contractor who has 10 or 15 people working for him. Now you think they're going to be able to jump up to the next level? An example, we have over 400, more or less 400 county employees, have a budget of $65 million. I would ask, any citizen to go out there and investigate the current candidates and see who has experience managing that level of responsibility. My last position in the Army, 441 individuals, military, civilian, over 17 different locations. We had an annual budget that I was responsible for of $85 million. I was responsible for a program valued at $1.8 billion. Wow. That's the type of experience that we need to have. As I talk about the return on investment for Carbon County residents, I just used the GI Bill to do my Master's of Business Administration at Lehigh University, one of the top universities in the United States of America. And it's right here in our backyard, and you know it very well from their wrestling program, of course.
Right.
That's the type of education and experience that we need to bring to our elected officials so that we can avert and hopefully be more effective and more efficient of providing services to our residents.
And you bring up a really good point. I mean, you have that military background and military expertise and then managing experience as, as a member of the military. But you also need people who are business leaders who should run for public office, or people who can bring, because you like those different points of view. Like you have that military background, the leadership there. You want somebody else who maybe was the president of a bank or somebody. That's what you like. I mean, and maybe has some experience in managing money, managing people. You like that diversity. People from all walks of life, or even a woman who, say, was in college, graduated college, had her business degree, and then all of a sudden she became a mom, and it was a mom for 20 years, and now she wants to get back into things, but she's seen things as a mom, and she managed budgets as a homeowner. And you like the overall experience,
Right, and you want to bring in different perspectives, because when you bring those different perspectives in, it helps you to resolve issues and look at it from different angles.
You just don't want rubber stampers all the time.
That's right, and small business. You talked about individuals who might come from different business backgrounds. Very few people know that my wife and I ran a small business, Cafe Ruiz Distributor C&M, where we were working providing a coffee to bed and breakfast in the Carolinas and Georgia for like 3 years while in the military. Extremely challenging trying to run a business while fighting against communism in Central America and the drug war, but nonetheless we were able to manage that. And what great experience that brought when we were quite younger, and an experience in the way the world operates. But that provided us a foundation.
Wasn't your wife still quite younger than you?
Well, just a couple of years. I mean, she had just recently got out of the service, because she was a staff sergeant, and she got out in '89.
Right.
And then once I got my commission, we were back at Fort Bragg when I was still in Special Forces, running around that, and we picked up the coffee business because we have some good connections even here in the U.S. in the coffee business today that we'd like to utilize and speak with.
Well, I was trying to get on Maggie's good side. That's
no.
Hey, you go down into Jim Thorpe, right? A lot, so you're down there. Well, you got to go in and see my buddy over there at the OK Cigar Company on Broadway, Brandon. He's a good guy, and it's like a gentleman's shop, and they have this big walk-in humidor, and they have a wide selection of antiques, men's accessories. You're always very dapper. And go visit those guys when you get down. They're really nice people. And Brandon, helped sponsor our morning show, and we really appreciate his support. And just an overall, just like you, overall good guy, salt of the earth, hard worker, small business owner. Because this county and so many other counties and, states throughout this country, basically, I always believed that they were the backbone. Small business owners were the backbone of this country, So I would like to thank Brandon. But I know you're always down at Jim Thorpe, so stop in and say hello to Brandon when you're down there and tell him.
Now it's going to be much more challenging to get down there to see Brandon, is it not?
Yeah, with the construction.
We've got a lot of activities that seem getting ready to kick off. Unfortunately, we still have the challenge there with the construction of the 2-level parking garage.
What's up? You have an update on that, Chris?
Well, I'll provide an update. Again, this is from the person, Chris LUKASEVICH, by no way representing any organization either for or against. But the fact is, it seems like the Carbon County Commissions are full on. They're going to move full ahead with this project, the 2-level parking garage, 110 unneeded, unnecessary, not usable to the public, the county taxpayer.
Well, that's the thing that gets me more than anything. The fact, if you're going to railroad this through and you're going to put it in, that's fine, but allow it to be accessible to the public, especially the tourism public on weekends down in Jim Thorpe, where it's tough to find. One of the only complaints I hear about Jim Thorpe, because most people love it, is the fact there's not adequate parking, and this would help with that whole parking situation.
Oh, absolutely. So if you're going to have a parking garage,
let people park in it.
Let people park there. And I think also, we can never understate the risk that this particular project, where it is planned, the risk it poses to St. Mark's Church. In the National Registry of Historic Places, St. Mark's Church, the Tiffany glass, and all the beauty, history, and art culture that's associated with that, to put that at risk at any cost, I think is probably an unreasonable, unrational decision that was made. And I know, Stop the Susquehanna Street project continues to pick up steam. They have issued some court actions against the borough of Jim Thorpe to see if they can kind of slow it down, to get this reassessed, to see if it is practical, if it is absolutely necessary for that location. So they're trying to buy some time to get this. So good on them and the Stop the Susquehanna Street project for their work and effort to protect what's so critical to not only the citizens of Jim Thorpe, but to Carbon County, because it does impact Carbon County. The tourism that it brings in here is significant. So we don't want to do anything that's going to make it a little bit more challenging economically here in Carbon County.
Okay, Chris LUKASEVICH, Republican candidate for Carbon County Commission. We'll come back with more thoughts from him, his platform, all those things. So make sure you stay tuned for that coming up right after these important messages.
Well, I'm looking forward to that Belinda Carlisle concert. I have my tickets. I'm ready for it.
Ready to go.
I'm mad about you,
Well, you had me fooled that one day. I'm like, so Belinda Carlisle, you're like, I know her. I'm like, really? And like, no, I'm just kidding. You had me going.
I was actually in Central America at the time. This would have been 1984. Maggie was actually serving in Korea at the time. I was down in Honduras. This was during the communist threat down there. And Belinda Carlisle just happened to be the one cassette tape. I was a staff sergeant at that time, but my captain had one cassette tape, and it was Belinda Carlisle. So that would have been her first tape after, I guess, she left from the Go-Go's.
Right.
So probably her first one. I think it was called Mad About You, I think, because that was the title
that was
track
one of her
also.
big songs. Yep.
Yeah, so, music has been significantly important in my life. I told you, I think when we met in last July, that surprisingly this month, 53 years ago, the #1 song for all 4 weeks in March, and then the first week in April was Staff Sergeant Barry Sadler. That would be also the #1 song of 1966, and that truly was what influenced me to seek an Army career and specifically be a Green Beret.
Yeah, and your friend Scott Pompa was telling us the stories about when you guys were younger. Used to, and we all did. I did too.
Yeah.
Back when the combat series was on TV and stuff, and we all played Army. And he's like, man, Chris was intense. Chris was really into it. He's like, I knew he had a future as a military leader.
Yeah.
So that was pretty fun.
Yeah.
It's fun when you look back. But you know what? It's funny how certain music takes you back to that point in time or a great moment in your life or maybe a tough moment in your life or whatever. So
that reminds me of a song. And again, this is funny how these things come up. So I think about the song, Just When I Need It You Most. You remember that song?
Yep.
Are you able to hum it or anything?
Just when I need.
Yeah, that's a great song.
You don't want to hear me sing.
Well, no,
Chris.
and the reason I bring that up, because there's a big turbine issue going up in Packer Township. 21 potential turbines are planned up there, and I think it's unfortunately, I think it's a fait accompli. It's going to occur. But the commissioners, just about a year ago, had an opportunity to support the individuals who were concerned with wind turbines in Penn Forest Township, the ones that were going on to the
Right.
Bethlehem Water Authority. And they refused to even consider a proclamation offering moral support to the folks of Penn Forest Township, Toa-Mensing, and others who are concerned with protecting our natural beauty, which, of course, is what a significant draw to this area.
Oh, down here, this area.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw, and no offense to Monroe County, I loved it up there for years, but when I originally, got my radio job in Monroe County, it was 1983. And it was so underdeveloped. I mean, Marshall's Creek, wide open fields, and and woodlands, and same thing with the west end of Monroe County out there, and Broadheadsville and Gilbert. It was gorgeous. And then since then, all the unbridled development and the strip malls and all the stuff that went in, it pretty much destroyed a lot of the scenic beauty of Monroe County.
Right. Yeah, and we need economic development, but we know it has to be balanced with our natural beauty, our natural assets, mostly in this area. Jim Thorpe, the Switzerland of America, and that really extends beyond Jim Thorpe. It goes like the turbines that they're planning for up on the Broad Mountain. Unfortunately, in 2008, up in Packer Township, they basically wrote an ordinance that gives these companies carte blanche to come in and put any type of turbine they want to put in up there. And now, I'll be honest, this is problematic for me, because the reality is, there are individuals, senior elected officials, who had a chance, I think, to positively help the people of Packer Township in their opposition, but yet I see, and I'm going to be candid here, and I have to be frank and candid. That's the way I am. You had a commissioner who accepted $2,500 campaign contribution on 21 December of this past year from the individual who's going to be the primary financial beneficiary of this project. And things like that have to be brought out. The individuals need to know when our elected officials aren't necessarily acting in the best interest of our citizens, or they have conflicts of interest. Now, if you have a conflict of interest, just come out and say it. I have a conflict of interest. I accepted this from this individual. But we don't see that. Individuals talk transparency, but their actions don't follow their words. And that's so disappointing to me. I think it should be disappointing to all of us, that we're not getting the straight up front, the skinny.
I don't like what you're talking about when you get a cash contribution to your campaign from somebody like that, because to me, and I don't want to allege anything here, but to me it just doesn't look copacetic.
You don't have to allege anything. Look, right here's a financial filing from an individual, right? Right here, $2,500 campaign contribution, right? That's no, wondering. That's a fact of record. You go to the Bureau of Elections, just like I do on a regular basis. And it disappoints me. Individuals talk about transparency, but then they don't back it up with facts. Facts are numbers. Carbon County, gosh, I love this place so much, and that's what brought me back here. I was blessed with the investment, again, as I stated, the American taxpayer made to me. Could have settled anywhere in the United States, but we made a conscious decision to come back here to reinvest in the community that was so critical to my formation. But then I start looking at county government and how it's managing our resources. Since 2012, we had a 39% increase in budget, from $44 million to $65 million. We had a 49% increase in taxes assessed by county government. We've just accumulated now $20 million in debt, long-term debt, over the last about 2.5 years. That's a total of over $24 million in debt. That's basically, if I had to charge you today, your tax bill, I would say, Bob, you're a resident of Carbon County, I'm increasing your taxes over $1,000 a year because we have to pay off this long-term debt. It's political smoke and mirrors. So instead of telling you up front, we're going to increase taxes 16 mil today, what do? We take out a 30-year loan and kick that can down the road so your children and grandchildren are paying for it, and you on top of that. Think of our senior citizens on Social Security, right? We give them 2 or 3% Social Security raise, but then we increase their copay by 2 or 3%. And they're the ones who are challenged most by these tax increases we see. And again, when government isn't transparent, aren't being upfront, when they're building or constructing wants instead of actual needs, that burden falls on us. And unfortunately, it falls on those who are most challenged financially, our senior citizens.
Yeah, you know, and as you're sitting here talking, you know, wheels are turning in my head.
Yeah.
And I think about all that stuff, and, you know, Representative Doyle Heffley will be in here on Tuesday.
Good.
He'll be talking about some things going on and not going on in Harrisburg.
Yeah.
And I'm going to talk to him again about, you know, what's going on with the school property tax relief effort, you know, and I know the answer. I mean, everybody here in the Northeast is trying everything they possibly can to get that done and to get taxes reduced, school property taxes reduced or eliminated. However, the mid-central Pennsylvania counties and representatives are fighting it because they like the formula they have.
Sure,
they don't have overcrowding issues.
Right.
They don't have school problems. They have, you know, a minimal amount of students and are getting a pretty good chunk of change for that, you know, and they don't want to mess with it. So,
yeah,
you know,
and our state, as you know, is well influenced by the electorate, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, the more urban areas versus our rural counties, the 67 counties. There's a couple of them who really have the gravitas, the weight, based on electoral numbers to really...
And they don't pay school taxes down there.
That's right.
School property taxes.
Yeah, so it is different. So again, what's their equity and interest?
Yeah, and they don't want to vote for that either.
No.
You know, so.
Yeah. But, you know, I do believe, though, again, do not our schools and our government have a responsibility to be more effective and more efficient in the use of those resources? Because we always seem a creep upward. We've never seen a reduction of taxes. We always see taxes going up, but I never really hear about, mostly on the county level, where all of a sudden we've become more effective and more efficient. So maybe we can cut taxes back just a little bit for the most challenged. Again, you know, I made a mention in the Times News and on social media about I proposed a 0.25 mil tax break for our senior citizens, and it is financially viable. And I also said, well, let's take that to 0.50 mil for those who are widows and widowers. We can do that, but we have to be more effective and more efficient because we want to be revenue neutral. We don't want to have to raise taxes to give someone some type of tax relief.
Right.
And that's the only way we're going to do it, is being more effective and more efficient with our money.
Well, look back when they had the banking crisis, the foreclosure, where they were giving everybody a loan. Oh yeah, you look good. You got it. Okay, here you go. And they sign up, and then who are the people that end up paying for it? We did.
We
all of a
paid
sudden,
for it all.
You know, the pre-mortgage insurance, we had to pay, you know, a lot higher. Instead of paying $100 a month. Or was it $48 a month? Now you're paying $250 a month. You know, and we're still trying to bail out the big banks who were stupid enough to allow that money to be, you know, sent out there.
All those loans given at-risk loans.
Yeah, and I mean, they were the ones that were supposed to be held accountable. The Goldman Sachs and the Banks of America, they were going to be held accountable, and we were going to, you know, reap the benefits of maybe getting some, not rebates, but getting money back, you know, as like to help us through, and then all of a sudden it didn't work out that way. They were the ones that kind of scurried on through and did okay, and then we're the ones paying the extra money, so we're the ones bailing them out instead of them bailing themselves out.
And most people don't recognize, like private mortgage insurance that you speak of, it's like our taxes. Remember now, it's all rolled into your mortgage. So until you really pay off your loan, you don't really recognize how much you're paying. So all of a sudden, you know, back in the 70s, you'd have a mortgage burning party, and you were basically clear and free. You owned your home. That's no longer the case today. You pay off that 30-year mortgage, or those who are fortunate to have a 20-year mortgage and can do that, great. But then all of a sudden, you're starting getting a $200, $300, $400 a month bill, quote unquote, from the tax office, $4,800 a year. You know, all of a sudden you realize you never actually own your home anymore, given the property taxes that are assessed on us by primarily our school districts.
Right.
But nonetheless, you know, the county, like I mentioned, a 49% tax increase by the county. And again, you know, we're spending, gosh, when I think about the money we spend, $5.5 million on our county prison for anywhere from 210 to, I think, 240 some prisoners. So we're spending anywhere from $22,000 to $27,000 on each prisoner in the Carbon County prison. You know how much we spend on our veterans in Carbon County? And keep in mind, we have the third largest population of veterans in the state of Pennsylvania by percentage. we're spending less than $27 on our veterans in Carbon County. Compare $27 to a veteran compared to about $27 for our criminal element. We spend more on the dogs in the kennel in Carbon County, the shelter, than we spend on our veterans. That's a fact of record. And some people might say, oh, that's apples and oranges. It's not to me. It's our priorities are wrong. And we need to do something about it.
Mark Bayless, who was in here with me from Valor, the Valor Clinic out in Jonas, he and I think it was Sean Cope. Is that his name? But I think it might not be Sean, but maybe it's Tom Cope. But great guys, but they had all those numbers too, and they said the same thing, that the veterans, this is like one of the largest veteran concentrations in the state of Pennsylvania. And we need to be taking care of those great veterans. Kevin Cope, that's his name.
Kevin Cope. Okay, yep. And Valor is a great organization that supports veterans. Mark has done a great job. He and I paralleled in our enlisted career Ranger Battalion and 7th Special Forces Group and stuff like that. What amazing job he's doing. And we need to leverage nonprofits like Mark to not only help our veterans, but other individuals in the community who are needy or need at least a boost up. Doesn't mean we have to take care of them for the rest of their lives, but we do have to provide them the opportunity for they themselves to be successful and to be given back into society.
Chris, now we're coming down to the last 3 minutes of the show. What are some of the things you want to get out there, as we get ready to enter into the primary in a little less than 2 months?
Yeah, we're right around the corner. I think I probably emphasize 3 points. One, it's the appreciation for the investment that the American taxpayer, the Carbon County taxpayer, has provided me. Secondly, we need a vision in Carbon County. If you don't have a vision, you don't have a plan. You don't have a plan, you're like a ship without a rudder. You're just being reactive and not proactive. Right. And I may have said this to you before, Bob. Growing up here, the one thing I always heard said is, from myself and my peers, I can't wait to get the heck out of here. Well, my vision is creating an environment, a quality of life, reasonable taxes, economic, where kids are saying at some point in their life, I can't wait to get back here to Carbon County. So there's opportunities for them to return, reinvest, and reinvigorate. The citizens who never leave here, they're not simply surviving, but they're thriving. And that thriving may simply be something as, getting home to have dinner with the kids a couple nights a week. You do the commute from the Lehigh Valley. We have a mass migration of workers down to the Lehigh Valley here, so they can no longer have that night having dinner with their children, getting to the wrestling match, the football game, the baseball game. Right. We need to change that environment here. And we also need to ensure that our community is welcoming the newcomers, yet they assimilate and embrace the Carbon County way of life, our rich heritage, our culture, and just the way day-to-day life is, kind of a little bit more laid back, but just good blue-collar work ethic, individuals of character that we have. We have to take advantage of that. People need to understand that with a vision, we can reinforce the good things in this community and at the same time raise everyone up throughout the 23 municipalities so that we're all a little bit better today than we were last year. And I think if we elect the officials who are well-trained, educated, we can really go to the next level. We need to move away from career politicians. We need new blood. We need new passion. We need new energy. And we're not going to get that if we continue to do the same old, 20-plus year politician, 19-year politician. Again, it's not getting us to the level we need to be in Carbon County. We're not thriving. This county is a little more than surviving, and we can do better than that.
Yeah, and that's why, many people I know are proponents for term limits. Because then when the elected officials are in there, they're in there for a purpose and to get things done, not to just get reelected and continue on and collect a paycheck.
No,
whether it's in Washington, whether it's out in Harrisburg, whether it's here in Carbon or Monroe counties or wherever. Yeah,
I'm a big 8 and done. Mostly when it comes to the commissioner level, it needs to be 8 years and done. There's no reason why an individual should be there more than 8 years, because I think often you have to recognize that the greatest success is setting your successor up for success. You don't need your name on the plaque. If you're confident about you and your abilities, it should be good enough for you that, I got the ball to the 3-yard line. Now I'm going to hand it off to the next guy, and I'm going to let him spike the ball. And you should be, strong in your own person to say, you know what, I gave 110% and I did my share. And I'll give the glory to someone else. Don't need my name on a plaque at all. But we can do better, Bob, and having opportunities like this to be on the air and talk directly to the citizens and your listeners, I think helps them make better decisions come 21 May. And again, I would say, let's debate the issues. If there's a candidate out there on the Republican side, they want to debate, let's do it. Let's have that conversation so we can ensure we're only electing the very best for Carbon County, because that's what the residents deserve, the very best.
Okay, thanks very much.
Well, thank you.
You had me there, man. I was like glued in. Thanks so much, Chris. Chris LUKASEVICH, the C4 Vision for Carbon County campaign, and if you need more information, you can check them out on Facebook or
c4commissioner.org, or give me a call at 570-503-6780. Unless I'm having dinner with my wife and kids, I'm going to answer that phone.
All right, Chris. Yeah. I know you will, too.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks so much, Chris LUKASEVICH, and thanks, everybody, for tuning in to another edition of the Morning Lifeline right here on Penn's Peak Radio.
Ever wonder how there can be so many different kinds of paint? I'm Danny Lippard.